we were talking about creating safe spaces, and one of the things I mentioned was toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. This is definitely not what I thought it was.
What did you find?
Welcome to the NOIRPOISED podcast, where wisdom is power is more than just a motto. So I don't know if you remember, there was an episode in season 1 where we were talking about creating safe spaces, and one of the things I mentioned was toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
So apparently I had a whole different understanding of what the term means.
Yeah.
Because when I thought of toxic masculinity, and I said this on the episode, I thought of men who literally belittle women just for the sake of their gender, or men who walk around being too egotistic to take a woman's advice because she's a woman, like little things like that. You know, that's, I'm like, okay, toxic. Yeah, that's not good behavior. But I later found out that it meant something completely different.
So do you think you had the definition that society has now, or did you find some kind of original meaning that deviates from what society says?
So I kept hearing people talk about it on YouTube or whatever. Like there's certain platforms that like I'll listen to what they're talking about, and it had to do with like politics and stuff like that too. But just the way things are going right now, we do have a situation where men are criticized for being men. So there's a particular show that I was watching online, and she kind of ran through like some information. I was just like, what? Wait a minute. Let me look it up myself. So I went on to look up the term toxic masculinity, and I was just like, yeah, this is definitely not what I thought it was.
What did you find?
So just to paraphrase, what I got from it was men who are like afraid to ask for help, men who are powerful, or men who are prideful in their manhood.
That's what you found?
This is my understanding of it, but I'm actually gonna read it just so like you guys can see it, so I'm not making anything up. So I'm just gonna read the definition that I got here. So one of them said, socially negatively impacts men, women, and society, characterized by 3 tenets: toughness, and the examples are strong, aggressive, anti-femininity. So in other words, rejecting female traits such as asking for help. Now, I just want to elaborate on that part, because when I saw anti-femininity, I was just like, all right, so they, you know, maybe it's a man who doesn't really like get the whole women, equal rights, blah, 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 whatever. No, anti-femininity meaning the man doesn't want to tap into his feminine traits,
which is asking for help.
And an example of that is asking for help. And the third one was power. I don't know if y'all see my shirt here, but there's one of them that says men are powerful. I think that's normal. Like, we should want men that want to be powerful.
This definition is actually pretty confusing to me.
Bro, you can't even imagine. I was like, nope, I have to mention it so people know.
So it's saying
I was not aware
men who are
of what I was saying.
Strong or aggressive.
Yes.
Don't ask for help and are powerful are
toxic.
Toxic. That's crazy. I could understand how, of course, there's limitations to some of them. Like, you don't want a man that's too aggressive. You don't want a man, just speaking candidly, you don't want a man that every little thing he's like, help.
Right. You're reading all the definitions.
Yeah. Right. I could understand to some degree, but to just label that as toxic, that's definitely not the definition I had in mind.
So an example of it that I wrote down is the need to aggressively compete. I can't even finish the sentence because I'm just like, I thought this is what men were made. You guys were created to compete.
Yeah,
like it's healthy to compete. You know what's funny? In a healthy way.
I was just telling someone the other day, how if you want to make a man happy, well, at least this is from men to men. It sounds weird, but men love trash talk.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Like it sounds weird, but men
No,
actually love
now that I
trash
understand,
talk.
I have a better
Yeah,
understanding of you guys. It doesn't at all. I get
yeah.
it.
There's a certain aggressiveness that I think we require.
Mm-hmm.
Just like femininity requires a certain level of delicacy.
Mm-hmm.
I think men, they need that aggressiveness.
Right.
Like, working from home and being with you,
Mm-hmm.
our daughter, and our dog is a female dog.
Yeah, you surrounded by
The first
women.
time, I'll never forget the first time I went to the gym or to boxing. My trainer actually punched me in the face by accident. Like,
Yeah, I
he was trying to
remember
show me
this.
something, and I busted out laughing
Because it felt so
because
good.
it felt good, right? I felt crazy at the moment,
Yeah.
but he understood.
Yeah.
But I think it's because I was missing that aggressiveness. So to hear that is categorized as a negative trait, it makes sense why, not to sound messed up, but it makes sense when you look at the state of, not, I wouldn't even say it's most men, but some men.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense that they're gravitating towards that because that's what society tells you
Mm-hmm.
that's wrong.
Yeah, we're really in a space now where we're telling men not to be men.
Yeah.
And this is my opinion, but unfortunately, I feel like a lot of those men are listening to that, because realistically, why wouldn't they listen if it's all they hear, it's all they've heard? Like, the term was created in the 20th century. So that's just to show you how, like, new age the term toxic masculinity is. I think we're at a point now where men are almost being required to act like women. And I know a lot of people will feel a type of way, but I'm telling y'all, we different and it's okay. We're different and it's okay, but we live in a time where, like, men want to be women, women want to be men so bad that we're coming to a space of this where you have men who are not willing to play the role of a man. And when they do play the role of a man, they're toxic. How dare you?
You know what bothers me about just the term toxic masculinity is you never hear about toxic femininity. Like, it's always just one.
It's so true.
One direction. Like, if a female wants to be herself, that's totally fine.
If she's a little bit more aggressive or, like, more masculine, it's fine. It's accepted.
Yeah, it's fine. It's accepted. It's even applauded.
Right.
But for men, I feel like that term was created to not just demean us, but force us to be something that we're really not.
Yeah.
And I actually wonder why the studies have shown, or statistics show, that men are not as committed to being in relationships like they used to. Really? I wonder if it's I wish I had the study pulled up. Maybe we could put it, when we post this episode. But I wonder if men are just afraid to be themselves.
I definitely think there's truth to that. I think that's honestly across the board, if I'm honest. But I do think men are afraid to be themselves, because I even remember being in work where I used to have a mentor, and he would kind of, like, say little stories here and there as he's mentoring me. And there were some stories that he said where that is a thing, where now men are afraid to do simple things like spread your legs when you're sitting down. And it's like, bro, you need to.
Yeah.
Like, you need to. But even something that simple is, like, a thing.
Yeah.
So it's really a shame, because I'm watching, like, the upcoming generation and the young boys that are coming up, and they're being taught to not be men.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I get the concept of, like, being aware of your emotions and tapping into your emotions. We've had episodes where we discuss that. So I'm all for it, because at the end of the day, you want healthy men. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having men that want to tap into their competitiveness, their aggressiveness in a healthy way, that take pride in, doing man things and leading, and what men are supposed to do, in my opinion.
But so what is your definition of what toxic masculinity is?
Bro, I literally thought it meant men who belittle. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you've ever been around someone like that, where it doesn't matter what women say, they just won't take the word for it because it's a woman, not anything else, but just because it's a woman. I don't think a man who is masculine and confident in his manlyhood, I don't think he would operate that way. I actually think it would be the opposite, because he understands that while his role and his woman's role is not the same, but he understands that she has a role, and her role is just as important. It's just not his. But with toxic masculinity, I was under the assumption it was a man who was like, you're a woman, what do you know? I'm not going to take your advice. What do you know? Like, you know, or someone who like throws things in a woman's face in a disrespectful way just because she's a woman. That's the impression that I had.
So here's what I'm thinking now. So taking all these definitions, I wonder if toxic masculinity could only exist in relationships. So like if, let's say we're together, right? Let's say I'm using these characteristics. I'm really strong and aggressive with you. I refuse to ask for help. And I don't know what power means in this context, but let's just say I feel like I'm so powerful kind of thing. Don't you think that's kind of toxic to our relationship? Maybe that's the angle they're going. Because I'm as you're speaking, I'm starting to think of it as there's a certain way that men should behave at home, and there's a way that they should behave outside the home.
I agree with that.
Because the stuff that you mentioned, belittling, it's gonna sound crazy, but I actually don't see that as a crazy bad thing.
Whoa, why? Please explain.
Because if we're in a competitive world,
yeah,
I can't be offended if someone tries to dominate me.
Yeah,
I can
but
only try to rise
that's
up
in a situation where it's man to man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
out,
but
out
this
in the
is
world.
this is in the case of like man to woman.
I see.
Yeah, that in my perspective of the whole belittling thing is like, let's say it's your sister, God forbid, you're disrespectful to your sister because she's a woman.
Gotcha.
That's what I mean. It doesn't have to be within a relationship. But this was just my concept of what it was.
Yeah.
I did not know. I did not know that it was this. I really thought it was just a man who's like egotistic and, you know, not even like the healthy confidence, just like full of ego. And because of his ego, chooses to disrespect people and not take into consideration what they're saying or respect others. That's what I thought of it. But yeah, no, that's not what it is. But I actually wanted to run back on what you said when you said there's no such thing as like toxic feminine. But one of the things that I thought, I don't think it's as extreme, to be honest with you, but I do think there is a form of it where now, because of the feminism mindset and, you know, women can do it too and the equal everything, whatever. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for like equal pay and stuff, but
just that, especially the pay, huh?
Definitely the pay. But one thing I thought about is how women who choose to be fully feminine are often frowned upon. So like, I actually think we're in a time now where women who are trying to operate like men, although they don't know they're trying to operate as men, I actually think that society is teaching us that women should be playing certain roles that we realistically don't have to, similar to like the whole men concept. But for example, I've been a stay-at-home mom, right? And I notice the passive aggressiveness that happens with other women making comments about it. You're just gonna stay. You're just gonna raise a child.
These are comments you get from women only.
No, not just from women. Yeah, I gotten it from men too. I think it's just a common thing now, and it's, again, I don't think people know. I don't think people are intentionally like, you know, saying things. It's not even that they're saying disrespectful things. It's just the way things are said. Like, oh, you're just raising her now. You know what I mean? And nonetheless, I'm not just raising her, but I always think of the women that are just doing that. You know, that are simply staying at home and raising their kids and catering to their husband and managing a household. If that's literally all they do, unfortunately, we do live in a time where it's frowned upon. And I do think that's a form of feminine toxic femininity. That's just my opinion though, but that's what I've noticed, that women now, they want to work the same jobs, play the same roles, and don't stop to realize it's never going to be the same.
And I think that's the main pain point that people have is they think different means one is superior than the other. And that's not what really
that's
difference
good, because I
is.
think that really is true.
Because there's certain things where I've watched you excel, and if I try to walk in your shoes, I'm completely lost. And I'm sure it could be vice versa. It's not that one is better than the other. It's just we're different. Like, I don't even know how else
and that's what I said in the
to
beginning.
say
We're
it.
different, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case across the board.
Yeah.
We are different, and I think it's accepting the difference and respecting the
Yeah.
difference. Unfortunately, that's not encouraged.
Mhm.
It's not encouraged to be different in any way, let alone to be different in these type of terms. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, women are expected to operate like men, and now they're training the upcoming men
Yeah.
to be women.
Yeah. That's actually something
I
where
hope that's not controversial, but I really do feel
I mean,
like
it is.
they punks now, bro.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what is happening here? It's good to be in touch with your emotions. I 100% believe that. But choose your people. Choose your people.
Yeah.
I think it's important to choose your people, and I think there's a level of beauty in a man who is confident in his manhood. You know, where he's like, I'm fighting to do this, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna figure out a way. Like, the
Yeah.
asking for help thing, I understand how it could be like toxic in a relationship, but in general, like, you don't want a man who's always walking around looking for handouts. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, you're a warrior. Be that.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. So I don't think that's wrong. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, and that I agree, and that's why I had said I could understand toxic masculinity existing within a home or relationships, but I feel like once you step out of your home,
Yeah.
it's different. It's literally a dog eat dog out world, and you got to
Right.
do your best. Like, the people who, I'm not gonna mention any names, but the people who I've actually thought to myself, I respect them, are people who have been really aggressive. And that's coming from someone who I'm perceived as, like, you know, soft spoken, where I'm not aggressive at all, but I
Yeah.
have that aggressive
Within
nature
you.
in me
Yeah, for sure.
to be that way when it's necessary. I think that's what it should be, but I never looked at a guy who was aggressive or even tried to be aggressive with me, and like, that was toxic masculinity. So
Right.
I'm thinking, I'm wondering, why was that term even invented in the first place?
We know why.
And is it something that the media just puts out there and makes us think that the average person thinks this way, or do the average person think like that, where, no, you want a man to be a man, not to use the same words for the definition. So I'm wondering if that's the case as well, because from my understanding, it seems like even the women who say they want a man who doesn't fit these characteristics because it's toxic, they seek it out.
Yeah.
That's the type of guy
I think it's in our nature.
Yeah.
I think it's in our nature to want a manly man, and a man to want a woman that's capable of tapping into her feminine side. So yeah, it's weird. But as you were saying that, when you said aggressiveness, I actually thought of maybe our understanding of that term is wrong too. Because when I think of aggressiveness, right, like you saying that you're not an aggressive person, but you have that aggressive nature, I actually think you are an aggressive person.
Oh, really?
You're not aggressive the way that the world labels aggression. So people will think of aggression and think of like anger, violent, you know, loud spoken. You're not that, but I've seen you operate in life when you have to get something done, you do it aggressively. And that's on a mental and physical aspect. So I don't think we use that term properly sometimes, because you don't have to be like, oh, about to, you know what I mean? You don't have to be like that to be aggressive. I think the aggressiveness that includes violence and I want to punch a wall, I think that's aggression, but I also don't think that's healthy aggression. I think there's a time for it, you know, within your boys and stuff like that, but it's not healthy. So I think that's the difference, that men being aggressive is looked incorrectly. I don't know if I just made sense there.
No,
but
you did.
Okay.
Now I'm trying to navigate. Okay, we get how the dynamic works between, you know, in home or in outside the home.
Yeah.
So now I'm wondering, in your opinion, how do you think a man should carry himself within the, like, something as simple as the workplace? Because I'm thinking about how a man who's in the workplace, who works with a lot of women who have this view, I'm struggling to understand, like, what should he do? Should he just continue to just, you know, tell himself this is a job, I don't care, I don't have to care what they say? Or should he let that aggressive nature show? Because what's crazy is, I've been in most of my jobs, my coworkers have been predominantly women.
Yeah.
But there was one particular job I had where most of the women, they did something coincidentally. the atmosphere completely changed. I mean, we weren't like, fighting and drinking beer or whatever they say men should do, but you can tell we were more relaxed.
I can see that. Honestly, and unfortunately, bro, you can't. At work is a different type of ball game because you don't want to lose a role or lose a license for the sake of like proving a point. So unfortunately, I think in that space, you do have to kind of like guard yourself in a way and not show entirely what you want to show. And I think that's okay because I think that's across the board too. It's not just for that specific thing. Work is work. You're not going to operate with people at work the way you do with your friends and family. But in your personal life, I honestly think men should be men. Because what I've noticed too is that oftentimes a lot of people are thinking the same thing and want to do the same thing, but no one's willing to do it.
Yeah.
Everyone's afraid to like say something or do something. And that's why I'm like, yeah, forget your feelings, bro. I'm just saying what it is, what I think it is. Then that doesn't mean that you have to agree.
Right.
I respect your opinion, but I personally believe men should be men. Healthy men, but men. I think it's okay for men to be confident in their masculinity. And if that comes with being strong and competitive and not necessarily that you can't ask for help, but you don't want to ask for help because you want to compete with yourself and figure it out. I think that's beautiful. Personally, I think men should want to be strong. They should want to be to have power, like in a healthy way, because having all those things, you don't want to do that and then belittle people. I think that's my problem. It's don't do it and belittle people. But if you're respecting other people in the process, bro, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Like, where's my shirt? Hold on.
Right
here.
Let's get a zoom
Kings,
over here.
leaders, strong, honest, ambitious, bold, confident, intelligent, authentic, brave, smart. Where's the best one right here? Powerful. Powerful. Like, honestly, I really think men should be all men could be. And if a man chooses not to, bro, to each his own. I just don't like the idea of men having to in a sense, like shelter themselves for the sake of society.
Yeah.
I get it in corporate world because you got to keep a job to, maintain your life and your family. But other than that, I really think if a lot of us started speaking out and saying what we think and being who we are, there would be less of this where everything is like, oh, man spread. You know what I mean? It's just like, it doesn't have to be all that. It really doesn't.
If I was to summarize, I would say, do you while being respectful. That's really what it is. Whatever comes natural to you, because I wouldn't say I struggled with this, but being in an environment, whether it's at home or at work, being around mostly women, there were times when I felt like I couldn't be myself. Right. Not that I wanted to be disrespectful, but I had to be soft spoken. Every response was filtered. My smile because you don't want to hurt
anyone's feelings.
Right.
I get that.
But I got to a point where I'm like, I could be me and just be respectful.
Yes.
And however that comes out kind of thing.
I agree wholeheartedly. You guys are great. Be you, bro. Mm-hmm. It's okay to be masculine. And we're out. Thank you for spending your time with us. We hope you gained some knowledge today that'll promote poise in your life. We have new episodes uploaded every Thursday right here, same place, same time. Until next time, you can follow us on Instagram at NOIRPOISED Podcast to stay connected. That's NOIRPOISED Podcast. We'd love to hear your feedback.
And remember, your wisdom is power.